Oslo Garter Moon delivery. KLM 157. Radio check.
KLM 157. Reading you 5.
Oslo Garter Moon delivery. KLM 157. Request IFR clearance to Kittila.
KLM 157. Clear to Kittila. Routing as filed. Maintain 5,500. Squawk 0002.
Cleared IFR to Kittila. Routing as filed. Maintain 5,500. Squawk 0002. KLM 157.
Ground to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you're ready. Ground to cockpit, tow is driving up. Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect. So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake. Starting pushback, and you may start engines. Operation complete. Set parking brake. Disconnecting tow. Stand by. Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Flight attendants, prepare your doors for departure, please. Cross-check and all calls.
All right, we've got everyone strapped in. Give us a ring if you need anything.
Good evening, ladies.
Oslo Carter Moon route. KLM 157. Request taxi for departure.
KLM 157, runway 19 left, taxi via Delta, Papa, Romeo, Victor, Sierra, and Bravo 9, hold short of runway 19 left.
Runway 19 left, taxi via Delta, Papa, Romeo, Victor, Sierra, and Bravo 9. Hold short of runway 19 left, KLM 157.
Return to designated taxi route Yankee. Runway 19 left. Taxi via Yankee. Hotel. Delta. Papa. Romeo. Victor. Sierra. And Bravo 9. Hold short of runway 19 left.
Roger. Returning to route Yankee. Runway 19 left. Taxi via Yankee. Hotel. Delta. Papa. Romeo. Victor. Sierra. And Bravo 9. Hold short of runway 19 left. KLM 157.
KLM 157. Return to designated taxi route Hotel. Runway 19 left. Taxi via Hotel. Delta. Papa. Romeo. Victor. Sierra. And Bravo 9. Hold short of runway 19 left.
Roger. Returning to route Hotel. runway 19 left, taxi via Hotel, Delta, Pop, Romeo, Victor, Sierra, and Bravo 9. Hold short, runway 19 left, KLM 157.
KLM 157. Return to designated taxi route November. Runway 19 left. Taxi via November. Papa, Romeo, Victor, Sierra, and Bravo 9. Hold short of runway 19 left.
Roger. Returning to route November. Runway 19 left. Taxi via November. Pop, Romeo, Victor, Sierra, and Bravo 9. Hold short. Runway 19 left. KLM 157. B738 KLM 157. KLM 157 on taxiway Sierra.
Fly heading 190, wind calm runway 19 left, cleared for takeoff.
Fly heading 190, runway 19 left, cleared for takeoff. KLM 157.
Positive rate.
KLM
400.
137, contact Oslo approach 118.475.
1000.
Oslo Cardinal, approach 118.475, KLM 157.
To go.
Climb and maintain 5,500. KLM 157. Climb and maintain 5,500. KLM 157. Climb and maintain 5,500. KLM 157. Turn right at 060. KLM 157. Climb and maintain 5,500. KLM 157. Climb and maintain 5,500. KLM 157. Climb and maintain 5,500. KLM 157. Turn right at 030. Resume home navigation. KLM 157. Climb and maintain 5,500.
1,000 to go.
KLM 157. Turn right at 030. KLM 157. KLM 157. Request QNH. Oslo Garden Move QNH 999. KLM 157. Descending to flight level 055. Inbound to Kittila. Descend and maintain flight level 055. KLM 157. Turn right at 060. KLM 157. Descend and maintain flight level 055. KLM 157. KLM 157. Request new altitude of flight level 150. Clear to flight level 150. KLM 157. Climb and maintain flight level 150. KLM 157. Turn right at 030. Resume on navigation. KLM 157. Turn right at 030. KLM 157. Turn right at 040. Resume on navigation. KLM 157.
Thousand to go. 1,000 to go.
Descend and maintain flight level 150, KLM 157. KLM 157, request new altitude of flight level 250. Clear to flight level 250, KLM 157. Turn right at 040, KLM 157. Climb and maintain flight level 250, KLM 157. 040. Resume room navigation. KLM 157.
Thousand to go.
KLM 157. Request new altitude of flight level 290.
1,000 to go.
Flight level 290. KLM 157.
1,000 to go. Thousand to go.
Descend and maintain flight level 290, KLM 157. KLM 157, request new altitude of flight level 330. Clear to flight level 330, KLM 157. Climb and maintain flight level 330, KLM 157.
Thousand to go. Thousand to go. Thousand to go. 1,000 to go. Thousand to go. Thousand to go.
Descend and maintain flight level 370, KLM 157.
Written a little black box to live inside of Xavion, and after I land, I'm going to replay that flight in XPLANE. We'll compare XPLANE versus reality side by side. See how they look.
Owens traffic, experimental 84 for X-ray taking off 13 Owens. Alrighty.
Hello, my name is Austin Meyer and I wrote XPLANE. So people sometimes ask me, what airplanes come with XPLANE and why did you choose them? Well, I don't choose the airplanes based on what's most commonly found in the skies. Instead, I choose to include airplanes with XPLANE that give us the widest possible breadth of aviation experience when we fly the simulator. So I make sure to include airplanes like the Piper Cub, the ultimate in the low and slow, or the Airbus A330, the ultimate in the high speed, long range, and highly automated, and plenty of airplanes in between. But what occurs to me is just including the airplanes isn't quite enough. Don't I want to tell you about each one? So Thompson Meeks and I, Thompson does the social media at XPLANE, are going to make a YouTube video on each airplane that comes with XPLANE. And we will release them on this YouTube channel every week or two, or as fast as we can film them. We'll start with my airplane here, the Lancer Evolution, and then we'll do a video for every airplane in the fleet. Watch for them on this channel, and I hope you enjoy them. This is the Lancer Evolution, and it plays some pretty interesting tricks. And the first trick is power, and lots of it. So the type of engines that we have in most cars and single engine propeller airplanes are called reciprocating engines. They have a lot of parts that go up and down over and over. That's reciprocating. The problem with these engines though, is that if you spin them too fast, they start getting all explodey. Is there a solution to that problem? The answer is yes. And it's called the turbine engine. So a turbine engine has no reciprocating parts. It's only little wheels you spin faster and faster to compress the air. The turbine engine in here spins up to 40,000 RPM and brings forward 850 horsepower to the propeller. Now, this power is useless if it cannot be delivered efficiently to the airstream. Now here's a secret about propulsive systems. They are most efficient if they can grab the largest possible mass of fluid to operate on. So how do you grab a lot of air? You install a really big prop. So the secret of the non-reciprocating turbine engine and large propeller to absorb that power give this airplane strong acceleration, climb, and let it cruise at over half the speed of sound. But all the speed in the world is useless if you can't slow down to land. I mean, look at the wing on this thing. It's designed to go half the speed of sound. If I were to try and slow down for landing, it'd fall right out of the sky. But there is a solution to that, and it's called flaps. So here's how they work. When these flaps come down, they deflect the air downwards. Equal and opposite reaction, we push the airplane upwards. As well, there's a slot in this flap that causes a high energy layer of air to move over the flap, increasing its lift even more. With all this lift, we can slow way, way down and still keep flying. And that's what lets us approach the runway to 77 knots. But no matter how slowly you approach the runway, once you touch down, you want to get stopped and fast. And that's where this big propeller comes in useful again. Once this airplane touches down, the propellers can actually reverse to a negative pitch, giving reverse thrust and helping slow the airplane down so it can access even shorter runways. So now you see how all these pieces fit together. And when you operate the airplane, you can access almost any airport. Starting from Columbia, South Carolina, for example. This airplane could take you to New York, Vermont, Texas, the Florida Keys. Heck, in theory, it could even go to Bermuda. Bermuda. My family used to take me on vacation there when I was a child. I wonder if I could go back there. But there's a little bit of a problem with that. You see, whenever we fly by IFR, or instrument flight rules, we need to carry enough fuel to make it not only to our destination airport, but then to an alternate airport in case our destination airport is closed. It's kind of like a plan B, if you will. It means we always carry more fuel than we need. Problem with Bermuda, though, is that it's 827 miles from South Carolina to Bermuda. My airplane only carries 1,000 miles of fuel. That means that if I fly to Bermuda, I'll expend almost all of my fuel getting there, and I won't have any left to go to an alternate once I arrive. You see, there are no alternates near Bermuda. The only way I can operate legally is if I have enough reserve fuel to make it all the way back to the East Coast, which I certainly don't have. Wait, I've got it. The rules say you only have to file an alternate airport if the weather is bad. So, if I just fly in a day when the weather's good, I don't have to carry enough fuel to make it to an alternate airport. I can go to Bermuda with this one simple trick. It's genius! Engine start.
Jack Center, Spearman lead 44 X-ray with you, level 180.
We're 844X, Jack Center, welcome.
Jack Center, Spearman lead 44 X-ray with you, level 240.
JetBlue 270. Jack Center, 3054, level 340.
Let's go on vacation.
Dello 323, contact Jackson 132.42.
13242, level 323, good day. Wow, so this is awesome. I am at flight level 270. I am doing 305 knots. I'm at right at 40 gallons an hour. I'm looking at 2.5 hours to Bermuda. The autopilot's got control of the plane. The fuel en route is going to work out. I'm going to arrive at Bermuda with an hour still in the tank, so I've got good reserve fuel, as long as I land, of course. And in this airplane, it is purring like a kitten. So I am excited, and I cannot wait to do some vlogs from Bermuda showing how fun it is once I get there. Bermuda Tower, experimental 844 X-ray with you, inbound for landing, and I have information Lima.
Yeah, November 844 X-ray, Wakefield is closed.
Wait, 844X, I'm sorry, say again?
November 844 X-ray, Wakefield is closed.
Whoa, 844 X-ray, I'm sorry, why is the airport closed?
Well, I'm sorry that if that inconveniences you, but I've got an A330 beached in the middle of the runway because they forgot to lower the landing gear.
Oh my god. Okay, 844X, no problem. I'm just gonna land on the first half of the runway. I can easily get this thing stopped at the first half of the runway. It won't be a problem. We can still pull this off.
No, you can't do that. My runway is crawling with FAA inspectors.
844 X-ray here. Nobody is gonna mind if I land on a couple of FAA inspectors. Nobody's gonna miss them, trust me.
Well, okay. But the airport is still closed. Go to your alternate. Good day.
Yeah, 844X, Bermuda is my alternate.
Sir, you can't choose your destination as your alternate. That defeats the purpose of the whole thing.
Whoa. Bermuda Tower, experimental 844 X-ray. I see something off in the horizon there, off in the ocean. It looks like some sort of a flat top or something off in the ocean. What is that?
Oh, that right there. Oh, that's the USS Ford here on military drills this week.
What? Well, why didn't you just say so? Experimental 844 X-ray, canceling all services, squawking 1200, cancel my flight plan. Good day, sir!
USS Ford, experimental 844 X-ray, inbound for landing.
This is the USS Ford approach control. I don't see you on the board. Are you type F-18 or F-35?
Either. This is Austin Meyer, and I'm flying November 844 X-ray. It's a Lancer Evolution. I'm critically low on fuel. Bermuda Wade Field is closed, and I need to get this thing on the ground now.
Negative. Do not approach this ship. You don't even have a resting gear. You're not going to be able to land here.
I don't need a resting gear.
You are not carrier qualified.
I'm at a low weight, I'll use full flaps, and I'm going to be quick to put this thing in beta the moment I touch down.
You don't own this ship, the taxpayers do.
I think I can get this thing stopped on the available deck.
Stand by, I'll contact the air boss. Alright, you got lucky. He uses X-Plane, and his sister got sued by a patent troll, so he knows who you are, and says that he saw your movement. He says you can give it a try, the landing zone is clear.
Make full speed into the wind now. I am coming in for landing.
Good luck, son.
With November 844 X-ray, I don't need luck.
Okay, covered in sweat from that. Holy cow. All right, let's get off the deck and we'll breathe downstairs. Whew, okay. Wow. Well, that took all the flying skills I had, but thanks to my airplane and the skill of the crew of the USS Ford, we pulled it off. And I think I've learned something here today. And that thing is, whenever I take November 844 X-ray to Bermuda, I just need to file the USS Ford as my alternate. Oh yeah, she's a sweet bird, does 300 knots, 1,000 nautical miles, no problem at all. Now, of course it is 850 miles from South Carolina to Bermuda, which is why I didn't have enough fuel to make it back, and that's how I wound up here. So anyway, I got the captain's quarters, right? This is the Piper Cub. About 20,000 of these things were built in the 1930s and 40s, and over 100,000 people learned how to fly in these airplanes. But man, is it hard to get in and out of. But don't worry, they solved that. Next came the Cessna 172 Skyhawk. As you can see, this holds 4 people, a lot more roomy and comfortable. It still handles just fine for flight training, but it goes 120 miles an hour. Well, that's not too shabby for actually getting somewhere. But the bar was raised again, this time by a company called Cirrus. Here we have a Cirrus SR-22, almost twice as fast as the Skyhawk, way more comfortable, better avionics, better handling, and better safety too. This airplane can sweat antifreeze, which stops ice from forming on the wings. And a rocket can shoot out of the back, dragging a parachute, which causes the whole airplane to settle safely to the ground in the event of an emergency. So these are all incredible airplanes, each in their own right. But you may notice they all have the same limiting factors, don't they? They all require fuel, and they all require runway. But what if they didn't?
5 years ago, I got a phone call from a customer asking me what an aircraft would look like if it didn't need any fuel or runway. XPLANE's whole mission is to predict how any type of airplane will fly, so we went to work, test flying countless designs in the simulator, and from those test flights, estimating how those planes would perform if we built them in real life. That customer was Kyle Clark, the CEO of Beta Technologies. And here's the airplane he built.
This is a Leah, an eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing airplane. How does it accomplish these things? Well, it all starts with the battery. Just like a Tesla, it stores them all down in the belly. And there's as many batteries down in this thing as there are in 27,083 iPhones. And you can charge this airplane from a regular old power outlet, if you allow 10 days. But don't worry, we have a high-speed charger that'll charge this thing up in 30 minutes. So incredible battery energy is how we escape using fuel. The power from these batteries goes to these rotors, and the rotors lift the airplane up vertically. And that's how we obviate the need for runways. But lifting the airplane up vertically comes at a price. Operating rotors is always very energy intensive, and helicopters have found this out the hard way. It takes a lot of energy or fuel to hold yourself in hover under a rotor. So, ALIA engages the pusher propeller that you see in the back there to push the aircraft forwards. Once that pusher is moving this airplane forwards at 100 miles an hour, air is flowing over the wings, and the weight of the aircraft is borne by the wings without the inefficiency of a rotor lifting it. That's what gives this airplane the efficiency of any other airplane you're going to find in the sky. Now, let's fly it in XPLANE. So we're going to start off with assigning some joystick buttons. So what I've got here is just a little Logitech Extreme 3D Pro, super affordable and accessible, but I find it's just great to fly ALIA. So the first thing you want to do is go up here to the settings menu and to the joystick tab. Now, hit whatever button you want to use to engage that pusher prop that pushes you forwards. I'm just going to make it this button right here. And when I push this button, I hit the edit right beside the flashing button, and I'm going to type in horizontal. This is going to be throttle horizontal up a bit. Apply. Now, I'm going to push whatever button I want to use to get off the throttle. And I choose throttle horizontal down a bit. And so look what I've done here. We've got the stick, which of course already works, our throttle slider, which will control the lift rotors, and our buttons for throttle horizontal up and throttle horizontal down to control the pusher. All right, let's give it a quick flight. We'll start this flight off on Beta's relocatable electric charging pad. This shows a little bit here, and I'm gonna hit Command M 3 times. This shows the flight model forces that XPLANE predicts will come out of this airplane. The next thing I'm gonna do is advance the throttle on the joystick. Advancing that main throttle obviously sends power to the lift rotors and lifts us up off the ground. Now, as I bet you can guess, the next thing I'm gonna do is add power to the horizontal or pusher propeller. I'm gonna hit the button that I have configured to do that, and up comes the throttle and the airplane starts accelerating. As the speed builds, I'm going to gradually bring the nose up to level, maybe even raise the nose a little bit, and reduce the main throttle. That reduces the power on the lifting rotors. Eventually, I get that throttle all the way to 0, and the lift rotors are completely stowed, and we are just flying a regular airplane with a pusher throttle pushing us forwards. We're flying like any other airplane. The difference is we don't need fuel and we don't need runway. So now that you've seen how to take off, the next trick, of course, is figuring out how to land this thing. And I'm going to leave that to you.
So today we're going to fly a Piper Cub. Now this is a type of airplane that is referred to as a tail dragger. You might be able to guess from the name, it drags its tail. How does it do that? Well, the third wheel is on the back of the airplane, dragging along behind. But here's an interesting thing. When you have the main gear up front and the tail wheel in the back, the center of gravity has to be back between the main gear and the tail wheel for every landing gear to want to sit on the ground. What this means is the center of gravity is slightly behind the main landing gear. Well, what does that mean dynamically? Does that cause anything to be different? Well, yeah. So let's look at this airplane. Same thing, a tail dragger, but it started to yaw to the left as it's going down the runway. As you can see, the landing gear is going to pull to the left, but the center of gravity doesn't want to pull to the left. It wants to keep going straight because inertia, and so the tail wheel, whoop, flips around. It's an unstable situation. The aircraft wants to flip course on you. It's called a ground loop, and it's a little on the terrifying and expensive side. But I've simulated an X-plane. One little thing though, I've never actually flown a tail wheel airplane in reality. Well, today we're solving that problem. My flight instructor, Stoney Truitt, has rounded up someone that owns a real Piper Cub. Stoney's gonna give me a little bit of ground school, and then I'll fly the Piper Cub. Let's see how it goes. All right. Hey. All right, let's get this over with. All right, you just talk, and I'll be getting caught up in email. That's okay.
Austin, this is your first time in a tail wheel airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Be very smooth, gentle, and gradual with the power. Because if you gun the power, the airplane's going to whip around with you and you'll wind up in the grass off the side of the runway.
Smooth power adjustments, what are you talking about? This thing's only got 100 horsepower.
You need to pay attention to this because you can wreck the airplane faster than you can control it.
Right, yeah, power, I know, I got power management just fine. Don't worry, I can do that on my airplane. It's not a problem.
If you ever start going back and forth, you're going to ground loop.
No, it's not going to ground loop. Not going to ground loop. It's fine.
Pay attention to the rudder.
Right. Pay attention,
Rudder pedals have to be constantly in motion.
Yeah. Rudder, rep. Yep, feet on the rudder. Got it. Mm-hmm.
You're not hearing me.
Got it. Quick rudder to get the thing to do what it's supposed to do. I got it. You got the keys?
Yeah,
All right.
I've got the keys.
Let's get out of here. Alrighty. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right, sounds good. All right, my airplane. Clear. Yeah! Woo!
Oh, help me.
Hey. All right, let's get this over with. Oh my gosh. For me, that is one of the coolest scenes in Top Gun. All right, let's recreate it in X-Plane. All right. Into X-Plane 12 with the F-14. We just saw it in the movie, so if the simulator is accurate, we should be able to reproduce this shot. Here we go. Here I am in the F-14, yeah. Way to the danger zone, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. The hotter the metal, the hotter the intensity.
Head into the danger. Wait. What? That's not what was supposed to happen. That's not what happened in the movie. And this is not why I signed up for the Navy. I mean, I wanted to be around the water, but not in an airplane. We're seeing something different in the simulator than we saw in the movie. I don't think my simulator's wrong. I think my simulator's right. Something's going on here. I must just need to dial my technique in a bit more. Here we go. Full burner, brakes off, get that nose up, get the airplane position exactly where it was in the movie, do the roll, and what is going on? Wait a minute. Look at this screenshot from the movie. Look at the contrails. The contrails are coming from the side. Those contrails didn't even originate at the carrier. And look at the exhaust. The exhaust is clearly off to the side of the carrier. That's no cat shot. That's a low approach. They just showed an F-14 blasting off from the aircraft carrier in the movie and then switched to a shot of an F-14 doing a roll after a low approach. And then they mixed the two together so he looked like he did a roll right after takeoff, even though he didn't. The movie was lying to us. Here we go. Let's just give this a try. Now, I'm gonna fly the maneuver the way they really flew it when they filmed the movie. Haha. Coming in on the approach, a little heads up display action there. Pull a little bit of G, yeah. Now, we got 250 knots on from our low approach. Yeah, do that roll. Woohoo! All right, now does that shot look familiar? Now we see something that looks just like the movie. Look at the contrails off to the side a little bit. And there's the exhaust off to the side. Just like the movie. So what do you know? In the real movie, they flew a low approach and just edited the cat shot and the low approach together. And when you think about it, it's kind of obvious. After all, an F-14 doesn't have ailerons. All he's got are roll spoilers. That's these panels that pop up on the top of the wing. They spoil lift. So while an aileron will actively push a wing down, spoilers can only spoil the lift that you've got. Now he can also retract his flaps a little bit, but that can't push a wing down. That can only reduce the lift that he's got. As you see, he can also twist his little tail feathers left and right, but those don't help very much with roll because they're so close into the center of gravity, they don't have a lot of leverage on the center of gravity of the airplane. And so of course, that's gonna reduce roll authority, especially at low speed. Why low speed? Well, think about it. If all you can do to roll your airplane is spoil lift, you're only gonna roll quickly if you got a lot of lift. And the only way you're gonna get a lot of lift is if you have a lot of speed. So an F-14 is only gonna be responsive in roll at high speed and high angle of attack for high lift. When it's popped off the catapult, it's not at high speed. It's barely flying. There's no lift in reserve to use for aerobatics. Well, I guess Top Gun lied to us. But only a little bit.
Lieutenant Brunch sugary cereal. Now with sour cream and onion flavoring?
Yes. Oh, dude, what was that about?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Try harder not to.
Well, I can't help it. This thing pulls left, like a single-engine airplane. Pulls left, like a single-engine airplane? What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at a typical single-engine airplane. We'll use a Cirrus SR-22.
Selecting objects in Blender is quite simple. We already went over it in the viewport navigation video, but to quickly review, left-click an object to select it, and left-click empty space to deselect. But there are other selection tools as well. You can press A, for example, to select all, and Alt-A to deselect all. However, what if I want to select multiple objects, but not all of them? Well, for that there is the Select Box tool. This is turned on by default, and with it selected from the Quick Tools menu, you can left-click drag to select multiple objects at once. To deselect multiple objects at once, simply Control-click drag in the same way. You can also enable the box select tool with the B hotkey, but in that mode you'll be using middle-click drag to deselect objects. An alternative to the select box is to press C for circle select, which acts more like a selection brush and only extends selection by default. You can, however, still use middle mouse drag to deselect while in circle select mode. Another way to select multiple objects is by simply holding Shift and left-clicking objects individually. To deselect using this method, simply Shift left-click the object again until it's no longer highlighted. You may notice that while you Shift left-click these objects, the most recently selected one is always highlighted in a slightly brighter orange outline. This denotes which object is the active object. The active object is the object whose properties will appear in the Properties editor. Now, just a quick tip. If you have objects or geometry obscured by other objects or geometry, it may be difficult to select them. To help with this, I recommend using wireframe mode, located here, to see through your objects. This makes things easier to select and also allows for selection tools like box and circle select to include otherwise obstructed objects or geometry. Now, it's important to know that each of these selection tools can be used for almost every context in Blender, including edit mode, pose mode, and many of the editors. However, in some editors you will be required to press B before entering box selection mode, such as the outliner. You may have also noticed a select menu in the top left of the viewport. If you open this menu, you'll notice several selection options laid out for you, as well as some viewport-specific selection options, such as Select All by Type, Select Active Camera, Select Linked, and more. Feel free to try these out yourself, but it's important to know that Select More/Less only works in edit mode, which we'll get into in a separate video. Now that we know how to select objects, let's start transforming them. Transformation refers to moving things, rotating things, or scaling things. So, let's say I want to push or pull my cube to a different location. This would be classified as moving the cube or translating the cube. I can open the Quick Tools menu and select the Move tool. You'll notice 3 colored arrows and 3 colored squares appearing on your selected object. This will allow me to click and drag any of the arrows to move the selected object along that axis. If you select any one of the 3 squares, it will move the object along 2 axes, excluding the axis of its corresponding color. For example, the blue square excludes the blue z-axis movement, but moves your object along the x and y axes simultaneously. But you can also left-click drag anywhere in the viewport to move the object along your viewing plane. Now, in case you change your mind about moving your object after you've already started dragging it, simply right-click before letting go of your left mouse button. This will work for all transformations. For hotkey users, you can press G as in grab to initiate the move along your viewing plane. You can then press X, Y, or Z to move it along a specific axis like the colored arrows did. Or you can hold Shift and press X, Y, or Z to move it along the other 2 axes like the colored squares did. You can right-click at any time to cancel the move, or left-click to apply the new location to your object. Fun fact, if you initiate any transformation with the mouse click instead of the hotkey, you can still use the X, Y, or Z hotkeys to perform similar axis-specific constraints on your transformation before you release your left mouse button. You can also switch your transformation entirely to a different one, such as rotation or scale, with their respective hotkeys. Please read the display at the bottom of your window while dragging your object around for more information. To reset the location of your object back to its origin point, simply press Alt-G. Now, what if we want to tip our cube over or roll it around? In order to do that, we need to rotate our cube. Let's check our quick menus for that. Aha! Yes, it seems we do have a rotate tool here as well. This will display a gizmo over the selected object or objects, showing each rotational axis. Just like the move tool, you can left-click drag any of the colored rings to rotate along a single axis. But you'll notice there are two new areas, the outer white ring and the inner sphere inside of the colored rings, which you'll notice if you hover over it. The outer white ring can be used to rotate the object along your viewing vector. Imagine your eyes drilling a hole into the center of the object and spinning the object around that axis of rotation. The inner sphere is what you see when you hover over the space in between the colored rings. This can be left-click dragged to enter a free rotation mode, which opens all three axes to rotation, kind of like a trackball on a trackball mouse. This is my favorite mode of rotation as it's the most flexible. For hotkey users, simply press R as in rotate to initiate the rotation along your viewing vector. You can then, once again, press X, Y, or Z to rotate along the specific axis like the colored rings did. But you can also hit R again to initiate a free rotation like the inner sphere trackball did. And again, you can right-click at any time to cancel the rotation or left-click to apply the new rotation to your object. To reset your object's rotation at any time, simply press Alt-R. Now, let's say we want to make our cube much bigger or much smaller, which can be the difference between, say, a tissue box and a house. This would be known as scaling our cube. So let's go check our Quick Tools menu again, and yes, a Scale tool. Selecting this Scale tool displays a gizmo very similar to the Move tool, except instead of colored arrows, it's like colored arrows with cubes of cheese stuck on the tips of them. Cheese. These work exactly the way you might expect. Simply left-click drag any of the colored axes to scale the object along that particular direction, big or small. You can also left-click drag the colored squares to exclude one axis from the scaling process. But what if you want to scale the entire object evenly? Just like moving, you simply left-click drag anywhere in the viewport. For hotkey users, press the S key as in scale to initiate the size change evenly for all axes. Press X, Y, or Z to scale along only a single axis, just like the colored arrows with cheese on them did, or press Shift X, Y, or Z to exclude an axis from the scaling, just like the colored squares did. You can right-click at any time to cancel the resizing, or left-click to apply the new size of your object. To reset the scale of your object back to its original scale, simply press Alt-S. Now, you may have noticed that during the rotation and scale procedures, there was a definitive center or pivot to the transformations. This is usually what the orange dot on your object signifies. However, what if you don't want to rotate or scale based on the object's pivot point? What if you want to rotate from the world origin or scale upwards relative to the floor level? That's where the 3D cursor comes in. This red and white circle is called the 3D cursor. It can act as the pivot point of any object as long as you click this drop-down menu here and select 3D cursor. Try it out with rotation and scale modes. You can move the 3D cursor throughout your scene by selecting the 3D cursor tool in the Quick Tool menu and left-click dragging anywhere in your scene, or pressing Shift right-click. You can change the pivot point back to the default median point at any time with the same menu as before. The 3D cursor can also be used for moving your object. I personally love this feature for quick moving your object to a specific point. Simply move your 3D cursor to where you want your object to go. Then go to Object, Snap, Selection to Cursor. For hotkey users, you can simply press Shift right-click and then Shift S and use the pie menu to select the Selection to Cursor. Just a friendly reminder, if you ever need to recenter your 3D cursor, Cursor to World Origin is also in the same Snap menu. Okay, now let's say I've run into the issue where I've rotated my object, but now I can't move the object along its own upwards axis. I'm stuck moving directly up, and that's not helpful. Don't worry, all you have to do is change this drop-down menu up here from global to local. This will change all gizmos to display the object's local axes instead of the global axes for all transformations. For hotkey users, you can access local axes simply by pressing X, Y, or Z twice instead of once after initiating your transformation. Another helpful tip for transforming your objects is to hold Shift when trying to be more accurate. Holding Shift while moving, rotating, or scaling your object will reduce the sensitivity of your cursor affecting the transformation values. In other words, it'll change slower as you move your cursor, giving you more nuanced control over the end result. In fact, holding Shift will achieve the same effect for cursor-dependent values in most other editors as well. For example, dragging a number along a slider. Alright, but what if I have a bunch of boxes that need to be perfectly aligned? Eyeballing it isn't very practical or helpful. This is where you can use the snapping options located at the top here. This magnet icon toggles snapping on and off, but you can also press Shift-Tab. The drop-down menu to the right of it allows you to snap to increments, vertices, faces, volumes, or edges. This way, you can align your boxes perfectly to each other without relying on guesswork. Selection and transformation are the foundation of manipulating your 3D scene in Blender. To add an object in Blender, it's really quite simple. Let's say we want to add another mesh. Maybe a torus, for example, or a donut. Simply go to the Add menu in the top left, go to Mesh, and select Torus. For hotkey users, you can simply press Shift-A to open your Add menu. You'll notice that the new mesh spawns where the 3D cursor is. This is an important feature of the 3D cursor. I'm sure you've noticed you can add things other than toruses. Inside the Mesh menu alone, you can see all of these primitives here. Most of them are self-explanatory, but you might be curious about what this monkey option is. The monkey is the head of a character called Suzanne. Suzanne is Blender's alternative to more common test models such as the Utah Teapot and the Stanford Bunny. As a low polygon model of only 500 faces, Suzanne is often used as a quick and easy way to test material, animation, rigs, texture, and lighting setups. Fun fact, the largest Blender contest, which takes place at the Blender conference every year, gives out an award called the Suzanne Award. To delete an object, there are 3 ways to do it. Make sure you have the correct object or objects selected, then go to Object, Delete. For hotkey users, you can press X or the delete key. However, if you press X, you'll get a confirmation message. To confirm, simply left-click or press D. These delete functions also extend to almost every other editor where you can delete things. But it's important to know that the deletion menu in edit mode, for example, can look very different. Instead of a simple confirmation menu, deleting things in edit mode will bring up another menu, which will ask you for more information. For example, you can choose to delete the vertices, the edges, or the faces that you have selected, and each one will do something slightly different. If you delete vertices, it will also delete all connecting edges and faces of the vertices you're selecting. If you delete edges, it will also delete any faces formed by those edges, but it will not delete any vertices that also share another existing edge. And if you delete faces, it will also delete all edges and vertices within your selection, but not delete any edges or vertices.
Bank angle. Bank angle.
1,000 to go.
Bank angle. Bank angle.
1,000 to go. Thousand to go. Thousand to go. Thousand to go. 1,000 to go. Thousand to go.
2,500.
Airspeed low. Airspeed low. Bank angle. Full up. Full up.
1,000. 5, 4, 3, 2.